Amen. This morning we were looking at lesson 3 in our Sabbath school class, Sermon on the Mount. We've taken some time reading chapter 1. We've picked up some selected comments there. We began to draw some truths about the prophetic significance and the placement of the Sermon on the Mount. So let's summarise what we picked up this morning. We're in chapter 1, from the Mount of Blessings, and we read paragraph 1.3 all the way down to paragraph 4.2. And what conclusions did we come to?
I was going to say that the 12 was chosen, 12 was made up at the midnight cry.
So we picked up the 12 disciples, and so if you just repeat what you should say.
So what we covered this morning was that the 12 disciples that Jesus had chosen while he was in Galilee, we are saying that that we place that at the midnight cry because they were closely now joined to him, where humanity and divinity joined together. And midnight cry is where the two sets comes, the flock and the SDA.
Okay. No, that's fine. Brother Robert.
I'm going to say that we've shown from what the Mount of Blessing says, which is the precursor to the Sermon on the Mount, is that it will manifest literally for us at the midnight cry. So that is where the Church triumphant will actually manifest in all of the moral counsel that is in the Sermon on the Mount, to do with, for example, loving the neighbour as yourself truly. That will be our experience at the midnight cry, because it's also in parallel story in Acts at Pentecost. It says that none of the disciples counted anything that they had was their own, but they all shared everything liberally. They sold their houses and brought the money the money from the sale and laid it at the apostles' feet, and then made distribution as they all had need. And these are inculcating those moral principles from the Sermon on the Mount. And then that in our history will be at the midnight cry.
Anyone else? Sister Daisy. Okay.
Okay, we're marking the Sermon on the Mount at the midnight cry. Historically, how far is that from the triumphal entry? Because we know that the triumphal entry is the empowerment session and it's typified the midnight cry. So what, the Sermon on the Mount and the triumphal entry, what's the distance between those two?
What difference does it make what the distance is?
I'm just trying to reconcile the two, because we're saying that the empowerment of the second entry message is a triumphal entry, but yet we're marking the Sermon at the Mount at that same place. So is that something we can do? And if we can, like, how do we do it?
There's 1,500 years between the Sermon on the Mount and the Triumphal Entry. Or there's 15 days, or there's 15 hours. What difference does it make how far apart they are?
What I'm asking is that, can we place both of them there?
Can we place August the 11th and August the 19th separated by a 4-year gap at the same place?
August 19th or April 19th?
April 9th.
No, because they're not the same way mark. They both point to different things.
Do they?
Well, they're both the second angel's message.
Are they? It's August the 11th.
Oh, sorry, do you know what? I thought you said August 15th, sorry.
Okay. 1840 and April the 19th, 1844.
In our history, we place them at the same place.
But they're separated by 4 years. So how do you do that?
Obviously, fractals allow us to do that.
Is it obvious that fractals allow you to do that?
No, we know now that fractals allows us to do that because,
Could you explain how you see fractals?
for example, we learn at August 11, 1840 to 9/11 based on the fact that we see a restraint of Islam, based on the fact that we see the angel, we see an empowerment. That's why we place August 11th at 9/11. We
Okay.
also place 9th of April at 9/11 because we recognise that represents when the second angel's message arrives, and we also see the angel in Revelation 18, who also proclaims the message of the second angel come down at 9/11. So that's why we place it there. But fractals has allowed us to do that.
Could you explain how fractals allow you to just to do that?
Because you have to draw it out.
You can come and draw it out, or I can do it for you.
You can do it for me.
I don't know. You walk me through it then, because I want to know how fractals did that for
The
you.
reason why is because they're two separate events, but the characteristic combined allows us to put that at 9/11. I'll say it like that.
I understand that, but how's that fractals?
Because the reason why I say fractals allows us to do that is because it's two separate events, but we understand that it's two separate events, but it's marking two separate things for different people at the same way mark. That's the best way I can describe it now.
Yeah, I understand that, but how's that a fractal? That's what I'm trying to... Because if I have the birth of John the Baptist and the death of the Pope,
because
how's that marking the same
the
thing?
reason why is that August 11th, 1840 is part of the first angel's message, so that's something separate on its own. April 19th represents the second angel's message, so if you put it all on one big line,
Yeah. Put one big line.
yeah, so if you put it all on one big line, August 11th and 1840 are two separate events. But when we bring it down to our history, it combines and blends. Maybe I should forget fractals. Maybe I should just say it's two events that combine and blend in our history. I think that's the best way to say it. So back to my question: how do we put the Sermon on the Mount and triumphal entry? How do we reconcile the two?
Same way.
How's that?
How's that, Sister Grace?
Oh no. I was just going to say exactly what Daisy was saying. She was answering her own question by talking about August 11th and April 19th being two separate events, but the characteristics, whatever Daisy just said, I'm sure I don't want to repeat it and misquote it.
Say it in your words.
From my understanding, I guess it's the effect of every vision that we can now look at Christ's time and be able to zoom into one particular point and be able to see 9/11 to Sunday, or maybe, for example, the story of but yeah.
This is looking at in this May what you just said.
It's like the whole notion of us putting the cross at midnight cry and then the cross Sunday Lord. That's what I'm asking. What gives us license to do it?
So what gives you license to put this at 9/11?
Because of what we've written here, it's reference to the strength of Islam.
Okay. So that gave you the license here.
Yeah.
So what's going to give you the license here? The same license.
Yeah, because that we know.
Same license.
Yeah, the same
Islam.
license. Yeah.
Islam.
No.
So what gives you the license here? It can't be the same license. It has to be
a different one.
So it's a different license.
Yeah.
So what is the license here?
The fact that it's the second angel's message, and we see the angel of Revelation 18 comes out at 9/11.
I've never understood this. I've never explained.
So this was second angel's message.
Yes, which around 19th of April, the disappointment.
Okay.
And we also see the arrival of the second angel's message in time. Or we also see the arrival of the second angel's message at 9/11.
So you're saying this is 14:8 and 18:2.
Yeah.
And you're saying because they're exactly the same event, because they're the same angel.
Basically, we see these two events occur, or these two events occur at 9/11. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, but this one occurs here, and because this event and this event are the same angel, that you're using a different symbol now, and that this symbol is going to tie it to 9/11, and this symbol is going to tie it to 9/11.
But they're both two separate, distinct events. Still.
Yeah.
So going back to my question, how did you get the sermon at the Mount?
Okay, so this one here is the triumphal entry, we're going to say. Different line. What are you going to use to try? What are you going to mark the triumphal entry with? To bring it to where are you going to bring midnight cry? What are you going to mark for triumphal entry for the midnight cry?
The parallel that the one speaks about, she speaks about the triumphal entry, and she parallels that power to August 15th, the midnight cry. That's what she. So we do that. We do that even for prophecy for it.
Do you know what that is? Anybody? These people aren't even listening to us. Oh, so you can't listen to me. Triumphal entry. She wants to try a triumphal entry with the midnight cry. How do you do that? She says there's a Spirit of Prophecy quote that does that. Ties it together. So I'm asking, where is the Spirit of Prophecy quote? Please on your phones. Everybody understand what we're looking for?
Yeah.
DC?
Actually, with the midnight cry, isn't it? That's what you're asking.
So we found it?
Yeah. Is it when he writes it? Near the close of the second angel's message?
No, that's not the one.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find it now.
Oh wait.
GC.
Oh wait, hold on. I think it's in Spirit of Prophecy Volume 4.
The message, behold, the bridegroom cometh, was not so much a matter of argument, though scripture proof was clear and conclusive. There went with it an impelling power that moved the soul. There was no doubt, no questioning upon the occasion of Christ. There was no doubt, no questioning. Upon the occasion of Christ's triumphal entry into Jerusalem, the people who were assembled from all parts of the land to keep the feast flocked to the Mount of Olives. And as they joined the throng that were escorting Jesus, they caught the inspiration of the hour and helped to swell the shout, "Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord." In like manner did unbelievers who flocked to the Adventist meetings, some from curiosity, some merely from ridicule, feel that convincing power attending the message, "Behold, the bridegroom coming." Is that it, Mr. Daisy?
Yeah, that. I don't think that's the one I'm thinking of, but yeah, that one.
It's
That was GC 401.4.
402.
Try to...
2.
No, I've got it in 4SP 250.3.
One moment.
It's exactly the same as what you just read.
Exactly the same.
It's
Exactly
very
the same.
similar to one of the writings the word of God, angels were sent to constrain them. It's not the same.
We've got to tie in the midnight cry with the triumphal entry. Is that going to do that? Were you thinking spirit prophecy, did you say?
Yeah, this quote, I don't think it's the quote I'm thinking of, but this quote pretty much says, she's speaking about midnight cry, and she speaks about triumphal entry, then she says in like manner, so she's comparing the two events. That's what
He's just read from Spirit Prophecy volume
4SP 250.
volume 4, page 200 somewhere.
250.3.
He says it's exactly the same.
Yeah, it's the point.
Yeah, it's identical to what Parminder read.
Okay, so triumphal entry is midnight cry. So you okay with that? And now we've said that Sermon on the Mount is also midnight cry. And what did we say to prove that?
It was based upon the fact that the 12 were made up.
So we've got the 12. What else?
Is it about the great multitude?
The multitude.
They unite more directly with his work.
There's unite. What else did we pick up? They've already been. Oh, so that's the 12. There's a lot of information tucked in that 12. They've already been with him for a while. So they've, I'll just put already.
And it was found with Levites as well.
How do you know?
Because it says the others, isn't it? That's the Bible verse.
It says that the people also have received evidence of his power.
So the people have received evidence. So there's evidence.
Yeah, that's it.
What else? Anything else we'll say?
Let's talk about full-time ministry. Full-time ministry by this point.
So that was, I think we said, they unite more closely.
Okay.
So they're uniting more closely. They've already been part of the group. The people have received evidence. There's a multitude, and it lists the people out. Half of them, some of them are half heathens.
Yeah, there was 7 in there. 7.
Oh, and there's 7. The multitude is 7.
Yeah.
You confirm that?
Yeah.
Yeah. We trust you. Just wondering if anybody else looked at the 7. Did anybody else look at the 7? Who had their hand up?
Could it be also that they lost faith in the leadership? Because it says he taught not as the scribes. So they saw him with authority and taught not as the scribes.
And so we had the memory verse which said new doctrine and authority. And he's already doing all of that. So we have all these markers, and you can see actually for this one there's a lot more markers we've got than we have for the triumphal. Although we only skipped the triumph, there's a lot more in the triumphal entry one. We can pick up a lot of the information from there. We just went to the Spirit Prophecy quote, GC 402.2. So you can see we're using different symbols, different truths, totally different story, and they're both talking about the same event. So I don't think this is fractals. I think it's straightforward.
So is it a case that the Lord is using 2 different events to illustrate different, like for example, to illustrate different things about the midnight cry. So for example, the triumphal entry is illustrating the empowerment aspect, whereas the Sermon on the Mount is illustrating the things that we've just seen, like 12 being made up. So for example, you wouldn't get that from the triumphal entry by looking at the triumphal entry, but you get it from looking at the Sermon on the Mount. Is that what?
Yes, but there will be similar things, because what did we pick up here from GC 402? It said, in like manner did unbelievers, so we've got the unbelievers, flock to the Adventist meetings. There's a ridicule going on, we can pick the ridicule. And I'm not sure if it says lots of people. The people who were assembled from all parts of the land. So you've got lots of people coming. You've got similarities there in that. Sister Emma.
Sorry, I'm just interested to use the word flock. You're saying go around to flocks in the meeting.
Oh, okay, yeah, so it's flock. As an example, what did we say that this is being symbolised here by? 9/11 to midnight cry. What symbol were you using to pick that up?
120.
We didn't read it anywhere. 120. 12. We picked up the 12, didn't we? Yeah. So you okay with that, Sister David? So what about if I said it's not 12, but it's 180? What would that do for you?
Oh, that would be. That would remind me of the book of Esther.
Okay, so isn't it exactly the same thing that we're doing in here? We're taking two different stories about totally different things and we place them at the same point and drawing out totally different truths from them and bringing them together, which is a whole principle of line upon line study. So I'm not sure it's fractals in and of itself, and then we could do 120 as well if we wanted to do that. In fact, when we spoke about the 12th Matthias, we're bringing in two thoughts there. We're bringing the 120 and the 12 at the same time, but we never mentioned the 120 in that story. Brother Robert, then Sister Anne.
Somebody mentioned about the great multitude representing sevens, but I disagree. From the 4.2, which is where I give that list, I've counted 10 different towns.
Sorry, yeah, so you've got 10.
I think you have the symbol of 10 and not 7.
Yeah, we're gonna say that.
So what are you saying, Sister Caroline?
Yeah, I don't know.
Can you name them?
1 second. One second. One second. Sister Emma.
It summarizes though, because like it says from Tyre and Sidon, then it says the Phoenician cities on the shore of the Mediterranean. So that's saying that Tyre and Sidon.
Oh, wait there. Before you do that, we're in the paragraph MB 4.2. Besides the usual crowd.
Yeah.
So let's all go there and let's count. Let's count. Are you there? Everybody?
So chapter 4 is that 4?
Page 4. Chapter 1, MB 4.2. Page 4. You okay? Okay, Sister Emma, you go. Besides the usual crowd.
From the Galilean towns, they were great.
Wait, yeah, you've got this then. You go.
Okay,
Galilean
so
towns is what?
Galilean towns is
You
what?
you said it. It was your objection.
Oh, Phoenician cities, I was saying.
Okay, so listen. How are you reading this then? Tell us when you get to number 1.
Okay, well, Galilean towns could be one because that's separate from
Galilean towns.
From Judea and from Jerusalem itself.
Is that one or
Put
two?
that together, I don't know. How do you want to do it? Do you want to do it as two?
You tell us what you do.
No, I was going to go to Tyre and Sidon and say that's a summary of Phoenicians. But if we're going to say everything that's mentioned,
Whose position were you trying to defend when you said that?
I'm saying I'm not conclusive about whether it's 7 or not and what it is.
Okay. Sister Caroline, you count for us.
Okay, so I'm thinking,
Stop.
why should we put Jerusalem and Judah in?
Just start counting when you tell us how you're counting.
I'm just saying one thing. I'm just saying, why are we putting Jerusalem and Judah in it? Because it will be part of the essence.
We're not doing anything. You're counting.
Okay, I says come from Perea.
Perea?
Yeah, which is 1. And
Decapolis.
And from Idumea.
Idumea. Tyre and Sidon.
Are there 1 or 2?
There's 2 cities.
There's 2. Okay, 2. Phoenician cities on the shore, so. And then the Phoenicians, and then that's it.
So you've got 5.
6.
So 6.
Where'd you get 6 from? There, at least something.
No.
Perea, Decapolis, Idumea, Tyre and Sidon. That's 5.
And then
And
No, it
Phoenician.
says Tyre and Sidon are the Phoenician cities. So is that where you got?
I know what
That's how I read it, but she's reading it as something separate.
Where did you get the 7 from?
oh,
What?
So you're saying that Tyre and Sidon are the Phoenician
It
cities?
says town site, comma, the
I'm
Phoenicians.
asking how you got 5. So how did you get 7?
Oh.
Sister Caroline, how did you get 7? I've only got 5 so far. Where's the other 2?
I think it was when we looked at Judea and Jerusalem, were they that's what she asked.
Was that a project that you had together? Because she just said it by herself. I never heard you confer it.
No, in the Sabbath.
I counted the Phoenicians as well.
Sorry?
I counted the Phoenicians as well.
And how many is that? Phoenicians? 10? 20?
No.
2?
Yeah, but if they were from
I asked you this at Sabbath school. You speak as one having authority. They crumbling under pressure.
Robert comes at 10.
Well, he's going to have his chance in a second.
I changed my mind.
He's already changed.
Do you agree then that this Sidon city is the Phoenician city?
I'm asking your opinion. You've only
I
got...
disagree, but Natasha thinks that the
Okay, it's 6. I think I was going to say.
Where's number 6?
I was going to say the Phoenician cities, but they're not separated.
So cities are 6.
The Phoenicians are going to count them separately, but no, they don't.
Exactly. Let's go.
Okay, the Galilean towns are Judea and Jerusalem.
So
Okay.
towns, Judah, Jerusalem. Is that
No. I'm saying the Galilean towns
Yeah.
are Judea. Yeah, it says from the Galilean towns there were great numbers. Oh, sorry, and from Judea. Judea is the first one.
No, wait there. Read it again. Besides.
Besides the usual crowd from the Galilean towns.
Yeah.
Okay, besides them.
Yeah. Is that
Alright.
one or not?
No.
Okay.
And there were great numbers from Judea,
Judea,
Jerusalem,
Jerusalem,
Perea, Decapolis, Idumea, and Tyre and Sidon.
7.
7.
Alright.
I count 8.
Who's the 8th one?
Galilean towns.
You got 8. Oh, there we
Would
go.
it be loads? The Galilean towns would be loads, wouldn't there?
Wait, can I get the 7?
Yeah, but it's mentioned here in context.
Okay, so I don't know what to make of that. We've got 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Do you count Judea and Jerusalem?
If you count as 2, it's not possible, you get 7.
Ah, Judea and Jerusalem. Jerusalem and Judea.
And there's no distinction between the two.
Why? Yeah, 8.
It's the besides them. 7. You know that this is besides women and children. Isn't it? There was 5,000.
If you want the 7, you're going to have to put Judah and Jerusalem together and put the Galilean towns in, so you get 7.
Yeah.
The Galilean towns would be loads.
But it shows you on the map here that Galilee is way different to Judea. And
Well, we know that is.
Jerusalem to Judea.
We know it's separate. Okay, so I don't know how we got onto that bit. So are we okay?
If you count however many froms there are 7 froms from the Galilean towns, from Judea, from Jerusalem, from Perea, from Decapolis, from Idumea, from Tyre and Sidon. But the from is implied.
Oh, yeah.
And Sidon, so it's actually 8.
You said it with such confidence that you back out at the last moment.
Marina is not a city, it's a district. It's an
That's
area.
right.
So then
So is
Galilee.
Idumea. Idumea is a district.
No, yeah, so
Judea.
So you can't have Judea as Jerusalem, it's 2.
Yeah, that was the point. So anyway, so is that okay, Sister Daisy? How are we doing that? Okay. So
you think it's 7?
I didn't make a big play about it, but obviously some people are excited about it. 7. So I'll go with 7. I'm okay with that. So we had in the lesson. This is on Sabbath in the introduction. If you studied it.
Can I throw in something as well?
I don't know.
You know the 2 sticks that you mentioned in Ezekiel 37?
Yes.
Me and Thomas was reading Zechariah 11 and we saw the 2 stakes there and beauty and bombs. You read that?
Oh, I've read that.
Okay. Study later.
What's your opinion on that?
Trying to make that.
Oh, okay, you just mentioned there's 2 sticks there.
Yes. Trying to make that a whole chapter.
Yeah, me too.
You understand?
So, in the introduction, it mentions about baptism.
Introduction where?
On the lesson study, Sabbath school class. Brother Jerome. Baptism. Explain about baptism from the context of the lesson study. In the book of Exodus, we see God lead the children of Israel out of Egypt, and then they baptized them in the Red Sea. Who's struggling with that?
Exactly. Is this on the Sabbath school?
In the Sabbath school lesson. Sabbath school lesson. Sabbath. Last week.
Oh, the first book, Sabbath.
Yeah? You okay? Have we all read that bit?
No, what's your question? So you're asking what?
What does that mean? The author said in the book of Exodus, we see God lead the children of Israel out of Egypt and then baptize them in the Red Sea.
So he
Where does he get that assertion from? It's from the book of Exodus.
where they go to the Red Sea?
No, he says he baptized them in the Red Sea.
Oh,
Where does he get that assertion from?
You're just looking at it symbolically.
Sorry?
You're just looking at it symbolically. And
So you just made it up?
no, you can make it up. But I think he's obviously seen a symbolic understanding between them going to the Red Sea and by them going to the Red Sea, their minds actually converted from their old thoughts to a new thought, from an old thought to a new one.
Sister Emma, which book?
1 Corinthians 10.
1 Corinthians chapter 10. Brother Jerome, could you read verses 1 and 2? First Corinthians chapter 10 verses 1 and 2. I quite like what he does here, that's why we're just going through it. We're going to see some parallels.
moreover, brethren, I would not that ye should be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea and were all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea.
Okay, so he's not making this up, it's a Bible principle. So they get baptized in the sea and in the cloud. And it says they get baptized unto Moses. What does that mean? Baptized unto Moses. Brother Robert?
Well, it's like when Jesus, like when Paul asks a certain group of people in the New Testament, to what were you baptized? And they said, to John's baptism, but I haven't heard of Christ. So, to be baptized to John's baptism means to subscribe to the doctrines and stuff that he taught. So this seems to suggest that they being baptized to Moses means that they have believed and accepted Moses as the prophet that's to lead them out of Egypt.
Sister Daisy?
You know what it says is it saying that? You know when you hear like baptized unto John the Baptist, is it kind of saying that in the knowledge that in the teachings that they've learned from that person? Is that what it means?
Yeah. They're accepting them as a person a spokesman of God, a prophet.
So is it on the person or on what they've taught them? Or both?
Is there a difference? Yeah, because let's ask that question. Is there a difference between the messenger and the message? Because all us militant people want to separate them. We don't like people looking at us. Don't look at us. Look at our message. Oh, is it very look at Christ? So what's the answer to your question?
I guess the answer is that no, there isn't a distinction between the message and the messenger.
There isn't. We have to really grapple with that issue. Because Revelation chapter 10, who's that angel that comes down? It's Christ, it's you, it's the message that you give. It's a human being at the end of the day. Sorry?
If you eat the little book, you do become the message. That's the symbolically that
More like Ezekiel.
Ezekiel's teaching.
Ezekiel. We're not in Ezekiel, we're in Revelation, which is...
No, it's not the book in Revelation. I was saying something else.
Yeah. There's multiple symbology there, because at one level you're the angel and one level you're John. Depending on how you want to view that. So it makes sense. So everybody understand that you can do that. You can be John and the angel at the same time. So you okay with that, Sister Daisy? Yeah?
John and the angel at the same time.
Well, you're John receiving the little book from God. Humanity and divinity are combining. So that's John. But at the same time, you're the angel who's giving this message, because you're a teacher. You're telling someone, you need to eat this information. So you're both.
Ezekiel ate the little book.
Yeah, but he calls it a scroll. Ezekiel 2 and 3, that's what you're referring to.
Yeah. So by reading it, you became the message.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they're baptized in the cloud and in the sea. And then what happens? So they're baptized here. Then they have 40 years of wilderness wandering. And what happens after the 40 years? We spoke about it this morning.
They go up to the mountain.
Mountain.
And they...
Which ones? Ebal
And Gerizim.
and Gerizim. And here, in the time of Christ, what have we got? Baptized. Then what?
40 days.
40 days. And then it's not directly afterwards, but that's not directly afterwards. Then you've got the Sermon on the Mount.
Okay.
So nice parallel there. And that was the author did that. Almost. Okay, so we've looked at that. And we're on Sundays. Is there anything on Sundays that anybody saw? So it says here on Sunday, thus whatever else we bring to it, the Sermon on the Mount gives us the foundation principle of God's kingdom. It tells us what God is like as the ruler of his kingdom, and tells us what God calls us to be like as subjects of his kingdom. It's a radical call from the principles and standards of the fleeting kingdoms of this world to the principles and standards of the one kingdom that will exist forever. So what kingdom is this talking about? Where is the kingdom of God? Who said that? Who said God? Sorry? Yeah, who? I was wondering who? Someone said. So we know it's the kingdom of God, but what kingdom is that?
At the time?
That's been referred to here.
Sorry, I'm not reading along, so...
Oh, okay.
Where are we? Are we in Sabbath lesson? Or are we...
We're in Sabbath school lesson on Sunday. Yeah, thus whatever else we bring to it, the Sermon on the Mount gives us the foundation principles of God's kingdom. It tells us what God is like as the ruler of his kingdom, and tells us what God calls us to be like as subjects of his kingdom. It's a radical call from the principles and standards of the fleeting kingdoms of this world the principles and standards of the one kingdom that will exist forever. So what kingdom is this? So it's the kingdom of grace. So if you want to be part of grace, you have to get in line with the principles of grace. But now this is the kingdom of glory. So now we're picking up the kingdom of glory. It's going to start taking effect at midnight cry. So why do we say that? Humanity and divinity combined here. We've got to be careful about how we're going to use that symbology.
No, I'm just saying because you're gonna having that. No, I'm just saying you're gonna reflect all that is, so you're fully his in that.
What step are we here? What step are we at? Everybody okay? Third? Sorry? Is everybody okay? This is the third step. Empowerment. Of the empowerment.
Okay, so
this is the third step. Where's the first step, Sister Eva? The step of the everlasting gospel. 9/11. So we'll leave the hard one for Sister Natasha.
For me?
Yeah, you. The third step of midnight cry. Who said that? Brother Jerome said that. I said, what step is the midnight cry? He said it's the third step. Then I said, what's the first step? Sister Reva said 9/11. She said, what step? I said, steps of the everlasting gospel. So where's the second step?
Well, Jesus is saying 9/11 as well.
Oh, yeah.
But I would have said the same because I know the first and the second angel arrived there.
Okay.
It's the empowerment of the first and also the arrival.
So you've got the first, second and third. So where are you supposed to be perfect?
Pardon?
Where are you supposed to be perfect?
Perfection is manifest at the third. Oh dear.
Where are you supposed to be perfect? You changed my question.
Indeed. Did I? Did I change the Where are we supposed to be perfect? Well, perfection starts at 9/11.
Amen. Second angel's message, righteousness by faith, and 9/11. Then it's going to be made manifest in a unique way. There. Why do we bring all of that up? Oh, we brought that up because of this thing. It says we read this paragraph from Sunday in the study lesson, and it says now to become the subjects of God. So when do we become the subjects of God? The third waymark. What is the third waymark marking? What event, Sister Adam? Do we normally mark the third waymark? I'll give you the first. The first is sin. Judgment. So you're judged at the third waymark. And when you're judged, that means your case has been decided. And what's the phraseology we use for that?
Close of probation.
Close of probation. So we've got the close of probation here. So you're now fully sealed. So here, you can now become what? A subject of his kingdom. Or the kingdom of Satan. So you're now a fully fledged subject of his kingdom. And so we're going to mark here, at Midnight Cry, what church? This is the church triumphant. So if we can mark the church triumphant, but in the wording that we have in Sunday's lesson, what would we call that? The kingdom of glory. So the kingdom of glory starts right here. So we've got the church triumphant, the Sermon on the Mount, and now we've got the kingdom of glory. Sister Grace.
Very simple question, I think. What's the difference between now and then? If we're to be manifesting righteousness, when we say that it will be demonstrated, we're not supposed to be demonstrated now. Are we not supposed to be seeing it now? What does it mean to be demonstrated? Does that mean others?
When you say now and then, what was the now? 2016 now?
Now.
And the then?
then being at that third way mark, at the midnight cry. Because we say it will be demonstrated then, but then we also say it's at 9/11 supposed to. Does that make sense?
I hope that makes sense, Brother Magic. So,
No, I got distracted, so.
you can repeat the question.
Do you want to repeat it?
Question is this. We've said number 3 is a manifestation. Number 1 is sin, righteousness and judgment. If the manifestation is number 3, what's happening at number 2? Are you perfect at number 2?
No,
You're not perfect at number 2.
we should be. We should be perfect.
So you are perfect at number 2.
No,
So what's happening at number 2 then?
we're developing.
Developing. You sure? So sin, righteousness. So when it says righteousness, it means you're just developing righteousness. You're not righteous. Can you tell me how you develop righteousness? How long does it take?
How long does it take? Sanctification.
No, righteousness. Now you're shifting the goalpost by changing words.
Righteousness with sanctification.
Okay, tell me what sanctification means then.
It's becoming more like Christ. It's where all our sin.
Wait there, you're telling me that sanctification equals more like Christ. You're telling me that's a working definition
It's
of.
a definition, and also.
Wait there, I'll just try. That's a working definition of sanctification. Is that a dictionary definition of it?
No, it's a practical definition of it.
So you're saying you're less like Christ at the beginning. Are you sanctified here if you're less? Where did you get sanctified?
No, sanctification starts, isn't it? Justification and sanctification are the same thing. Right?
Oh wait, so sanctification is the same as justification now?
Sanctification is ongoing justification, yeah.
And what is justification?
Justification is the start, where we come to Christ and our sins are cleansed, and then sanctification is the removal process of all our sins, and we become more like
The
Christ.
removal process of all your sins. So you've still got sins tucked in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
You've got practicing sins in your heart, and you're justified.
Yes?
So if you've got any known practicing sin, you're in a justified position with God.
No, as those sins are revealed to you,
If they're not revealed, they're not sin. They're not sin if they're not revealed.
then you're not like Christ. To be fully like Christ, you're not going to have any sins in you.
That's not justification.
I didn't say, no, we're on sanctification.
You're saying
Sanctification is when you
you're saying
converted.
here you're sanctified or you're not sanctified here.
At any one moment in time, you can be sanctified.
So what's the definition of sanctified? Because you're saying you've got more.
Yes. Okay. So definition then, you're not committing any known sin then.
That's the definition of sanctification. So can I take the more out then?
I still think you become
You're not
more
doing
like
any
Christ.
sin. Did
Yes,
Christ
but
do sin?
But there's unknown sins that you have.
They're not sin.
Of course they are.
No, because to him that knoweth to do good.
Alright, then to be like Christ, fully, completely, then you're going to have any unknown sins in you.
We were on justification.
No, we're on righteousness and he shifted us all the way down to here. I won't pursue it any longer because I think you and I don't agree on this thing.
Okay.
So the question was, that wasn't the question, we got side-shifted on that. The question was, sin, righteousness and judgment. And we're saying the manifestation is the third way mark. So Sister Gracie's question was, supposed to be demonstrating it earlier on. She's saying all the demonstrations at number 3. So the first thing we want to see is why did we say it's manifested at number 3 before we go too far and try to answer it? Why are we saying that anyway? So this isn't answering her question, this is answering my question now. Why do we say number 3 is manifestation?
Because that number 3 is the separation of the wise and the foolish. So you see then who was. At the moment everyone looks the same. At midnight cry, only the wise virgins will be may triumph.
Okay, so you're saying because there's a separation, you're going to see two classes separated.
Yeah, so that's the manifestation.
And the definition that we tend to use is the everlasting gospel is a three-step prophetic test that first produces or develops two classes and then demonstrates or manifests. So that's why we pick up the third one, because then you're going to see. So coming back to her question is, what's happening at number 2 then?
Development.
If you be careful, because you're going to get up there and you're going to start saying that.
We're hiding.
Sorry?
We're hiding.
Okay, so we can pick up the hiding. That's a reasonable answer. Okay, let's go back to the model of the cleansing of the sanctuary. When Christ cleanses it. What's the first thing that he does? Number 1. Now we're not using sin, righteousness and judgment. We're using that same framework, but now we're using different terminology. What happens at the first step? We mentioned it lots of times this morning.
Confess your sins.
Sorry?
Is that when we confess your sins into the...
No.
Sacrifice and baptism.
No.
What was your question?
The cleansing of the temple. When Christ cleansed the temple, what's the first thing that you see?
The leaders running the room?
The first thing that you see.
Oh, divinity flashing.
Divinity flashing through humanity. So we've got here the human and the divine.
The temple, like the synagogue.
Yes. And what's the last one? The last way, when you use the cleansing of the temple model, it's a shut door. The door is shut. So here's the shut door. So we have humanity and divinity in the shut door. And what's the second one? What's the second one? It's a visual test. Not visual test, it's a visual manifestation. It's visual. So there's a humanity and divinity, then there's a visual, then there's a shut door. So if it's visual, what does that mean? You can see it. So that's answering the question that you've proposed, that at the second step you can see a demonstration of two classes of people. If it wasn't demonstrable or demonstrable, what would Revelation 14 verse 8 be teaching you? What does Revelation 14 verse 8 say? How do you know? How do you know it's fallen? You have to see it. Otherwise you're just guessing. And that's what we as a church do. We guess that Babylon is fallen. Because we're just making it to some kind of esoterical experience. When did Babylon fall anyway? Did it fall in the times of the Medes and Persians? Has it been falling since then? Is it the rise and fall of Babylon? We don't really know how to tie that concept together. So our justification is, where do we put Revelation 14 verse 8 prophetically? Where do we put it? We read it this morning, Evangelism 613.1. No, the church doesn't do that. It says they get all of these messages and they do what with them? They push them into the future. So where are you going to push Revelation 14 verse 8 to? You're going to push it to the Sunday law. So you're going to push the visual representation to the Sunday law. And where are you going to make our perfection be seen? At the same place. It's all pushed forward, and that's the mistake that they make. So this visual test here is a visual manifestation. So we'd want to see the manifestation of Babylon falling here. Is that what we want to do? You want to point to people and say, look, you can see it, you can demonstrate it. Agree with that? Brother Robert, demonstrate it then. The Babylon fell. 9/11.
the Bible talks about the towers falling, and I think we're able to show from the Bible that the towers fell at 9/11.
So, one second, when you say the Bible says the towers fell,
Yeah.
where does it say that?
I think it's in Zephaniah. I think it's Zephaniah.
So the towers that fall in Zephaniah represent what?
The churches.
The churches. So you're saying the churches fell?
The churches fell, which is the same thing as saying that Babylon has fallen.
So you've gone to Zephaniah, and you go to Isaiah. What's the context of those passages? Is not the great day of the Lord? It is. So it's not 9/11 that they're referring to.
Okay.
I think I was reading about this week. Is it something to do with the walls, like the walls representing like symbolic walls, basically being come down?
Where are the walls going to fall?
First of all, in the Soviet Union.
Down back
There.
here?
Mhm.
Okay.
Symbolic, hold on. Being the Iron Curtain, yeah. The second wall being the separation of church and state.
Which would be when?
No, the second wall isn't the separation of church and state. The separation, sorry, sorry, I've lost my point, but
Okay.
I think it's something similar.
We normally mark the walls here and here.
Walls, yeah.
Visual.
So Babylon fell is to do with the two ones. The first one being Protestantism.
So, what date?
Well, you've got June 1842, but then you've got April 19th.
Not June 42.
Why I say June 42 is because there's the quote where Sister White says the Protestant churches began to close
Okay.
their doors. So that's why I'm saying that.
Okay. So you're adding the progression into that.
Yeah.
Good point. So, April the 19th, 44, the horn of Protestant America fell. Then,
And then at 9/11, the Republican horn fell.
horn of Republicanism fell. So this is Protestantism and Republicanism. What chapter is this one?
Chapter 8, 9.
Which book? Not 8, 9.
7, 8. 11, 42.
Revelation 14, verse 8. Revelation 14, verse 8. That's what they're quoting. This one, Republicanism. Sorry?
18 verses 8.
Revelation 18, verses 2 and 3. This one, chapter 14 is for Protestantism, chapter 18 is for Republicanism. So, this is why we're marking the visual test, so you can see that it fell at 9/11. How do you see it fell? Alright.
There's a quote from Sister White where she talks about the Twin Towers, where she gives lots of description about towers falling, and then it says, here, Revelation 18, 1 through 3 will be fulfilled.
Where's that found?
It's in two places. It's in Light Sketches 411.5, but it's also in the Review and Herald, July 5th, 1906, paragraph 14. And she says, she gives the description of the Twin Towers, and she says, when they fall, when Revelation 18, 1 through 3 will be fulfilled. So we can see it from the spirit of prophecy, that if we tie up her prophecy and nail it down so that we're sure it's definitely talking about 9/11.
So here are the two towers,
Yeah.
and that's the visual text, the visual thing that you can see. Someone said something here.
It's not what I was. Well,
Oh, it's not what you said.
it's partially. That was like a preface. What I wanted to say was that what you can see is that in October of the same year, George Bush made a Patriot Act. So, in fact, a person can visually see or recognise, maybe visual is the wrong word, but a person can recognise that the principles of the US Constitution began to be broken down through that Patriot Act. The Patriot Act stands for something like protection of actions against terrorism, or something along those lines. And it actually has the Catholic principle inbuilt into it that a person is guilty without having a fair trial first. It allows the government to track US citizens and basically do what they want with them as a means, they say, to protect against terrorism. And in that principle, it's going against the foundations of their constitution, so a person can see that the Republican horn has fallen, so therefore Babylon has fallen, is fallen, Revelation 18, verse 2 and 3.
So the towers fell and the Patriot Act, and you can see that the Constitution is under attack.
Yeah.
Which represents...
It was one of the foundations of Protestantism, the Constitution.
Republicanism, yeah.
Oh.
It's the foundation bedrock of republicanism. So that would then lead you to say the visual test for God's people should be what?
Should be recognising the significance of the Patriot Act.
That was isn't it?
I thought it's straightforward. Shouldn't you all be perfect now? So it's this round? Righteousness should be exhibited.
He was making a big emphasis on that. I don't know if you knew, but in the Sabbath school he was bringing back Mount of Olives, Mount of Blessings all the way back there. And I was thinking in my mind, why is he bringing that so far?
Bringing it back there.
Yeah, remember we asked where was the
Yeah.
lesson being pulled out? He was bringing it back there.
Matthew 5:17 to 19, Monday. Matthew 5:17 to 19. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. So what does this passage mean? It says, I didn't come to destroy the law or the prophets. What are the law and the prophets? Anybody?
Old Testament.
Old Testament? Everybody agree?
They have in Zechariah it's represented as the golden candlestick with two trees and two branches with two flows of oil that pour into it. So it's like two sources of light to correct God's people.
And what are the two sources of light?
In this context, the law and the prophets. The law being one and the prophets being the other.
And what are they?
I don't understand that question.
What is the law?
What are the Ten Commandments?
And the prophets?
Like, for example, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel.
Okay, so you think the law and the prophets means the Ten Commandments and the prophets of God?
I think it has a slightly wider meaning than that, but to simplify it, yeah.
And someone else said it's the Old Testament. So, is that what you mean by wider?
Well, it's not necessarily contradictory. I mean, the Old Testament also includes poetry like Psalms, but Psalms could be classified as prophets because the book of Acts says that David was a prophet.
Okay. Any other thoughts? And what does it mean to fulfill?
To fully preach.
Anyone else?
He came to fulfill the sacrificial system.
Anyone else? What does the word fulfill mean? I've got it as to satisfy or to bring into effect.
So I was going to say to make one into Christ-likeness.
So I didn't come to destroy the law of the prophets. I didn't come to destroy it, but to fulfill, to satisfy.
My own private definition that I've always kind of thought to myself before is that to fulfill here in Matthew 5:17 is to meet the requirements of. In Christ's life, he met all the requirements of the law. So the law says not to have any other gods before the true God, and Christ, was continuously praying to the true God and never had any other false gods. And the law says not to bow before idols, and Christ never bowed before idols. And so at every point of the Ten Commandments, he fully satisfied or met the requirements that those commandments outlined. And not only that, but also the principles of the Mosaic Law as well.
Verse 18. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot and one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Any thoughts? Everybody had to have that?
The same fulfilled right there is the same again there as well.
Yes, it's the same word. Robert?
I was going to say, I'm just reminded just now by reading that of, I think it's Matthew 18:28 or 28:18, where he said, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. So, Christ's words will not pass away, even though he says, one jot or tittle shall in no wise pass from the law. So it's like maybe the wording might be abrogated when you're all saved in heaven, so that it might reflect something a little bit more realistic, like, for example, not to covet your neighbour's wife, and it says they're not going to be married, so that kind of that type of adjustment. But the moral principle will always remain.
Verse 19. Whosoever therefore shall break one of the least of these commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So what does it mean to be called least in the kingdom of heaven? What's the definition of least?
Disappointment.
Disappointment? What do you mean by that? If I'm saying I'm the least in heaven, they'll be disappointed in heaven. Just right.
I have had that for the other question.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see it, sorry. Yes. Verse 18.
Yeah, verse 18. I believe that just in the same way that Christ fulfilled the law when he came, in like manner, those, or 144,000, those who are sealed before heaven and earth pass away, so to speak, before he comes back, will fulfill the law in exactly the same way. And going on, I was reading on as well, because it says that those who keep the commandments. So if you don't break the commandments, if you're keeping the commandments, as you will be tested on later on with the preservation and the law being, the Sunday law, then you will be called great in the kingdom of heaven, because you'll be there. So that I believe the least is those who are willing to serve, anyone who's willing to serve as priests.
When it says least,
yeah,
least
because Christ was made least. He had much, but he was made least. So in like manner, mirroring he would have taken on his image and be demonstrating him.
So I'm going to read verse 19 in the form of question to you. I'm going to break a commandment, and I'm going to teach you to break a commandment, and that means that God's going to call me like the least person or a humble person in heaven.
In that context, then those who are in heaven see you as the least because you are breaking the commandments.
So what does it mean, the least in the kingdom of heaven?
You're seen as the least by those who are in heaven.
And where will you be?
You won't be in heaven.
You won't be in heaven, that's the point. If you're the least in heaven, you're not even in heaven.
So if we're in heaven, where will we call it then the least? When we're in heaven, that's what it's saying then. Because when you read it like that, it sounds like they're in heaven. The white people in heaven call it them the least.
Yes. Yeah, they're not even part of the kingdom.
I didn't think it read as if they were in heaven.
It didn't read like they were in heaven, no. They're not in heaven.
It says if you break a commandment, you're least. That's how you'll be seen. Because it says, whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so he shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
So we're saying that basically they're going to be looked upon as the least, like Satan, really. Sinners.
Exactly, yeah. So people look and say, oh, you're a nothing, and the other people were great. So do we do that, just in closing? Do we have various rules, or not rules, statuses of commandments? It says break one of the least of the commandments.
Well, why do you call it least?
Why do you call it least?
Yeah, that's what I'd like to know.
I think,
Go on.
Maybe he was reflecting on what they were thinking.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Because we do put them in categories, don't we?
yeah.
We look at big ones, big things that people are doing and forgetting that thing that we think is very small is going to put you in the same place. You're still
In the eyes of heaven.
Yeah.
But even though I agree with that point, where did he say, the scripture says that some will receive more damnation than others over a longer time. How do you reconcile that?
It's meant to do with the amount of people that are led astray, not necessarily the amount of, the commandments. It's the influence, I don't know.
Sister Emma, is there degrees of sin in the sight of God?
Yes.
So you agree with that? There's the degrees of sin.
The Holy Spirit is probably the greatest sin.
So
other than that, I don't know of any variance in terms of the commandments. So that means that way that Christ was saying there were least and ones that were a bit more.
I think he's reflecting what you said. He's reflecting. You believe this kind of stuff, you church, and so I'm going to tell you, even if you think there's this categorization of sins, you're not excusable for breaking any of them, even the least sins. But in opposition to that thought, if that's the right way of saying it, in contrast to that thought, there are degrees of sin, even in the sight of God, even in the sight of men. When you kill somebody, or you get.
Men.
But she says even in God's, when God looks at sin, there's degrees. But then she goes on to say that there are no sins that are small. Yeah, you read it. Steps to Christ.
God does not regard all sins as of equal magnitude. There are degrees of guilt in his estimation as well as in that of finite man. But however trifling, this or that wrong in their course may seem in the eyes of men, no sin is small in the sight of God. The sins which man is disposed to look upon as small may be the very ones which God accounts as great crimes. And then it goes on, the drunkard is despised and such and such.
So in closing, I just want to read two thoughts which I think are some of these big sins that it speaks of. It's just one sentence. This is MB 16.1. Just one sentence, you need to search it up. It says, "It is the love of self that destroys our peace." It is the love of self that destroys our peace. While self is all alive, we stand ready continually to guard it from mortification and insult. But when we are dead and our life is hid with Christ in God, we shall not take neglects or slights to heart. We shall be deaf to reproach and blind to scorn and insult. And the other one is page 24, paragraph 2. This is a comment from Matthew 5:8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. It says, "The Jews were so exacting in regard to ceremonial purity that their regulations were extremely burdensome. Their minds were occupied with rules and restrictions and the fear of outward defilement, and they did not perceive the stain that selfishness and malice imparts to the soul." So as I was reading Mount Blessings, you'll probably read the same as well. To me, the overwhelming sin that comes up time and time again is this sin of selfishness and self-exaltation, or looking after number one, whatever way you want to phrase it. The book of Daniel, he talks about Gadal, self-exaltation. This seems to me the primary problem with human beings. But what we end up doing is we end up minimising it and making that one of the least ones, because we hide it. Really, we try to hide it well, but it's pretty obvious. So.
As I was reading this week about how you can't really accept the message or really be converted unless Christ has the heart. So you can see that selfishness is the king of the heart. So Christ wants to have the heart. Because you know he said the mind and the soul.
Yeah, very things we've been studying in Premier. So we're already way past time, so let's close with a prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your goodness and mercy towards us. Your loving kindness, Father, is beyond measure. As we consider sin, righteousness and judgment, as we think about the visual test that we see in the world and the visual representation of your character that we're supposed to be exhibiting to those around us, we want to ask, Lord, for forgiveness and for mercy from you. Father, please be with us. Please help us to understand more clearly not only the natural but the symbolic truths that are in these stories, so that we can make a practical application of these concepts, these principles in our own lives and in this fellowship. We ask for continued blessing and pray these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.